welcome to day 2 of our WFO virtual conference. We're starting out this morning with some rock stars. We have Kelly Kellecker and Tricia Manning from Verint here with us today, and they are going to be giving us some great information about quality monitoring failures, and so we're looking forward to that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started and introduce you to these two lovely ladies here. Kelly Kellecker is the Senior Director of Content Marketing at Verint, and she has a focus on contact center workforce engagement solutions, and says she has more than 20 years of marketing and sales experience. I'm not sure I believe that, Kelly. You're too young. I stopped mine at 20 years and said I'm never going any further. Tricia Manning is the Director of GTM Workforce Engagement at Verint, and she also says she has over 20 years. I'm not believing that either. She's responsible for driving go-to-market strategies for the Verint quality and compliance portfolio. So welcome, Kelly and Tricia. I'm going to turn it over to you and let you get started.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So first of all, welcome, and thanks for joining us on Halloween. Sorry there's no costumes today. So we'll have to remember that if we're presenting on Halloween again. But I just wanted to take a moment, first of all, to say thanks so much for joining us today. So I know everyone's so busy and being pulled in at least 10 different directions, right? So thanks for choosing to spend the time with us, and I hope you enjoy the session and hopefully leave with one or two good insights along the way. So in this session, as we said, we're going to talk about some common pitfalls in quality management programs that really keep organizations from optimizing their performance and compliance, efficiencies, customer experience, and all of that. And Kelly and I would love to have this session be as interactive as possible. We want to hear your feedback. We want to get your input as we go. So please, use the chat to comment and to provide feedback as we go. So I love this quote. Quality is never an accident. It's always the result of intelligent effort. I bet everyone on this call knows that better than anyone. Achieving excellent quality in your contact centers, that high quality customer experience, that high quality employee engagement, it's hard, right? It takes a lot of hard work, and it's also not something that once you achieve it, you're done. Check the box, right? No, you don't get to relax because the parameters, the environment, the agents, the channels, the rules are constantly changing. So before we jump too far into the content, if you guys could let us know in the chat, how many, do you have an automated quality program today, or are you manual? We just want to get a sense of who's in attendee today. And also, if you're the one running your programs, when did you last complete a comprehensive audit or review of your quality program? I'd like to get some feedback there just so we can make sure that we're addressing it as we go. Looks like most of you are manual. Okay, yearly audits, good, nice. Early stages of automated, 6 years ago, okay. I see it about 6 years ago for an audit. It might be time for a new one, for a refresh of that audit. Awesome, so lots of great feedback. Okay, so quality programs, never done audits. When have we stopped auditing? That might be more true for a lot of you. It may not be an official program or an audit to the compliance side, but are you ever stop looking at things, right? Constant updates. Yep. Okay, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate it. I just wanted to get a sense of who we're presenting to today, so that definitely helps. We're talking about, auditing it to see if your quality program is really driving that exceptional customer experience, if it's supporting that continuous improvement and employee engagement. Is it helping to protect your company from any compliance or regulatory violations? So today we're going to talk about some of these common failures, we're calling them failures, that we see in quality programs, and talk about how you can help to prevent them. And you may not see them as failures, but what we're trying to do is to encourage you to think about the impact that changing some of these things in your business would have. What would the impact be to your CSAT scores, to your employee satisfaction, and to just the overall quality of all your interactions? So after all, I like to say quality is the best business plan, right? So that's kind of where we're headed today. And again, please feel free to offer a commentary in the chat as we go. Kelly, do you want to get us started with our content as we go?
Yeah, let's talk about the first failure, if you will. I'm not in costume because I spent all morning getting my kids into costume. So we have a Wednesday Addams and a Gizmo from Gremlins. So it's only 9 a.m. here, so I've already had my work cut out for me. But maybe next year. Maybe tonight I'll go. I haven't decided. So let's talk about your quality program. I'm going to ask you guys 2 questions, and then we'll kind of compare the answers before we get started. So the first question that I want to start with is, how many different ways do your customers have to get in touch with you? If you've got phone, email, chat, maybe you're doing SMS, maybe you have a chat bot, maybe you have Facebook, maybe you have people doing WhatsApp now. So I'm seeing a lot of 3, 4 to 6, 5. So we got quite a few. There's still some people who are in the lower numbers, but yeah, I've seen a few 6s. Let me just let that run a little bit to try to get some averages. Some people are still just doing phone. Authenticated chat. Okay, cool. Looking to deploy Messenger, fax. That makes me feel old. 7. We got the highest number there. Okay, so now I'll ask you the second question, and I can't compare side by side, but I just want to understand the trends. How many channels, so of this number that you just said, how many are you doing quality evaluations on? So, we got all good.
Like that.
I'm seeing similar numbers. That's good. I'm seeing more 1s though. More out of 2, just 1. I'm seeing a lot of 1s now and a lot of 2s when I was seeing 3 to 5s. Only 2 of the 3. So we got a nice blend here. So there are some cases where it looks like some of you guys are offering ways to communicate with your customers on a given channel, but you're not actually monitoring the quality of those conversations on those channels. So that's the first step. That's the, that should kind of be one of the easiest things we can accomplish today on this call, is if you're not doing that, that's kind of a real easy step to take, where you don't have to buy any new software. You don't have to do anything that's going to cost money. All you need to do is make sure, if you're doing manual quality evaluation and you're evaluating whatever it is, 100 interactions a week, 500 interactions a week, whatever it is that you're doing, that those interactions that you're evaluating come from all of your channels, because they're all equally important. Being able to make sure you're delivering a high quality and compliant and efficient interaction across all those channels. And I see in the chat some people saying they're only doing 1 of the 2 or 2 of the 3. And so that's a real blind spot of how are those interactions going. And you may even want to consider, I didn't really get into this, if you're using like a chat bot or a virtual assistant, are you evaluating the quality of those interactions? Because even though those are happening not with a human, they're with a bot, you want to know, is that going well? Is the bot answering the questions? So even look at your bot-led interactions as part of your quality program to make sure you're getting that full picture. Then the second half of this is the trickier one. So as Tricia asked at the beginning, a lot of you guys are still doing manual quality evaluation. So when you're doing a manual quality evaluation, it's going to be pretty hard to get to 100% coverage unless you're looking to hire, as many quality evaluators as you have agents, which you're probably not looking to do. But it's so important to start to look at the technologies to get you at least some level of automation. You don't have to automate every single question. You know, a lot of people are doing a mix. They'll use an automated quality solution to do some of the checks. So to make sure every interaction has certain checks done in an automated way, but then they'll still come in and manually evaluate some interactions as well. So it doesn't have to be that you're turning the whole thing over to automation. It can be a mix, and it can be a gradual process as well. But it's important to understand that the technology really has matured to a point that this is a very, very viable option. You start with getting an accurate transcription of the voice call, or if it's a digital interaction, that's easy, we already got it. And then you use AI to understand the matches for the different things that you want to look for. You can even use generative AI to start to create these rules of, did they say the right greeting? Did they tell the customer they're going to put them on hold? All the different ways you might be able to say that. Generative AI can help you build those rules. So it's really, the technology's matured a lot to make this a lot easier for you guys. And the benefit you get from having that 100% coverage and not having those blind spots, just from a compliance perspective alone, you know, you're now able to catch those compliance mistakes that before would really be like a needle in a haystack. The chances that you would actually spot one of your rare compliance mistakes in your picking and choosing your interactions to evaluate would probably be pretty unlikely. So just from compliance alone, the benefits are huge, but really getting that full picture is so important. Tricia, do you want to add anything on this topic?
There was just a question in the chat. Based on number of contacts, is there a benchmark of how many roles you should have in QA? And I think that there's not a standard rule, at least that I've encountered, because it also varies not just the number of contacts, but what type of industry you're in. So if you're monitoring, if you're on the banking side or financial side of things, what you monitor and how frequently you monitor the compliance regulations and so forth are very different, right? So I think that is a big factor in it as well. I mean, Kelly, do you have any other insight on that?
Yeah, so I've talked to a lot of customers and kind of taken, you know, a poll, if you will. I've seen it as low as, we had one customer who they used to have a huge evaluation form, and they've narrowed it all the way down to, I want to say 5 or 6 questions, and that's it.
I think they're actually talking about the teams.
Oh, the number of teams.
The quality.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, again, yeah, it really depends on that industry for sure, because you depending on how big of a deal compliance is, and yeah, like you said, for sure.
Nice. Just checking the chat here if there's anything else here. Company correspondence team that monitors all social media, which is separate from a regular call center. Nice. Have 3 QA analysts for 75 agents. We need automation.
Yeah.
Yes, right. So that's part of the challenge, I think. You know, it's so important to monitor 100% of interactions, but you're so limited on time, right? So hopefully you got some ideas here you can start doing without technology, but yes, automation is a godsend here, right?
Yeah.
So we talked, Kelly mentioned a little bit about this, and we're talking about compliance, but, you know, does your quality program reveal expansive system, process, or compliance gaps? And I want to start kind of by defining compliance, which might seem odd, but so many times I've asked customers or prospects in terms of quality and saying, you know, are you concerned about compliance, or what are you monitoring on the compliance side? And so many individuals have said, oh, you know, compliance isn't a concern. And I think when the word compliance comes up, you're automatically thinking about PCI violations, you know, for credit cards that you're, you know, recording credit card numbers, or HIPAA violations, those types of things, but it's beyond that as well. So I'm going to ask this question and then we'll dig into it a little bit deeper. You know, do you have any questions on your current evaluation that would trigger the entire form to fail if they don't have that one thing? Because that's really can fall into that compliance bucket. If you have anything that's an auto fail, that might be a good indicator as to where, again, I term it as compliance, but a process gap, anything like that. So yeah, a lot of you on authentication. Yep. So when I'm looking at the responses here, I'm seeing HIPAA, I'm seeing, scrolling so fast I can't read it. Let me go back up. Right when I was starting to read it, it jumped. Verifying the customer, yep, a lot of those. I look at that as all part of that compliance terminology, if you will. So, while it can absolutely pertain to the PCI violations, that you've recorded, not to record credit card information, or recording calls without consent and violating HIPAA laws, or sharing medical information, or protecting your personally identifiable information. It can also be violations of internal processes, rules, authenticating customers, things like that. So it's not, while the monetary fines and penalties can really destroy a company from a compliance PCI standpoint, there's also the damage to your business's reputation, to your brand, and breaking your customers' trust that can be just as bad for organizations. And we see that probably even more frequently than the fines and penalties that are maybe officially coming down. So there are some basic things that you can do with tools that you have in place today. So obviously, technology is a great way to, or a great path to take, an automation side of things. But with what you have today, if you're manual, making sure that you have, it's some of these are going to sound so basic, but making sure you have consent from agents to listen into the calls. So from the supervisor standpoint, there's some basic things there. Auditing recorded calls as soon as possible so that you can really gain that insight into the customer actions, and then taking action if something needs to be corrected along the way. It could be making sure that, on the less exciting side, right, making sure you have effective network security measures in place, especially if you're handling PCI data, in that everything's encrypted that's supposed to be encrypted. It could be maintaining a call center compliance checklist with things like the things I just mentioned, or updating your call center software to the latest version to make sure that you don't have any of those vulnerabilities that are often fixed, or as you bug checks as you go along and update to the latest version. Deleting do not call phone numbers from the calling database. And again, I know these sound so basic, and a lot of you are probably already doing those, but starting with those basic things, and there's a whole lot of others, at least that gets you thinking in the right direction, thinking about when you're authenticating those customers, what's your process around that? So how many auto failures are you seeing, or how many are you experiencing in a month? And if you take that and multiply that if you're manual, and if you're only looking at 1 to 3% of total interactions, then multiply that. Think of what's hiding in that other 97%, that Kelly was talking about, in terms of making sure you're reviewing 100% of interactions. You're going to hear that common theme throughout most of these items that we talk about today, because it all kind of comes back to making sure that you are doing that number one thing of evaluating all your interactions across all the channels. Anything to add on this one, Kelly?
No, it just reminds me, we used to have a slide sometimes we showed that makes you have to do math, which we don't
Right.
want to have to do. But yeah, I mean, if you have an agent who's only identifying the customer 9 out of 10 times, that's still a tenth of their calls they're not doing. But if you're evaluating 1 out of 100 of their calls, the chance of you finding it and ever knowing that they're only doing this 9 out of 10 times, you're never going to know. So it really gives you that blind spot.
Absolutely. I'm seeing a comment in the chat about evaluating more on new hire and in coaching. Absolutely important on that end, but we don't want to forget about the agents that have been around for a longer period of time, and they might be exceptional at making sure they've checked all those boxes along the way, but what about when the processes change, or there's new laws or regulations that are put into place, or new requirements on a process internally? If you're not keeping a close eye across all agents, it's just a matter of they might be doing things the way they've always done them, as opposed to updating what they're doing and how they're handling certain calls or certain processes along the way. So just a quick comment on that. Practice evaluations, nice. Thanks so much for joining in the chat, folks. I appreciate the commentary back and forth. It really helps to guide our conversation as well.
Yeah, there's an interesting comment in here. They say that the new agents are actually more likely to follow the protocols. The ones who've been around a while, they cut corners because they've been there a while. That's a good point.
That's a very good point. Yep. Awesome. Okay. Kelly, why don't we go ahead and move on to the next one?
Yeah, so this next one, again, we can talk about providing objective and consistent scoring starting today. We can also, again, talk about how technology and automation can help. And this is another challenge, if you have several different people who work in your quality program doing evaluations. You have Joe over here that has his way of doing it, and he is a stickler for exactly the right greeting, and if you don't say it in, thank you for calling, whatever, if you don't say those words, you get a fail. Where if Susie does the same evaluation, she's a little more generous. If you say, hey, how you doing today, that counts. So it can start to really just even, tiny changes in how things are scored can really start to affect the overall performance assessment of your different agents depending on who grades their call. It also can be when you have these small teams, if you know which agent you're listening to and oh, well, this agent here, I know she's been struggling. I'm going to be a little nicer on her evaluation today. She's my buddy. We have coffee together. I'm going to be nice to her. Or this other guy, maybe he's new. I'm going to grade him more harshly. So there's a lot of just, we're humans. And it's hard to take that human element and really just always provide exactly the same scoring when that human factor comes into play. So some of the things that you can do to make sure, again, if you're using your manual quality evaluation is this, and I already see people talking about it, this calibration, have different people score the same call and then have conversations about whether you agree or disagree, whether this is a pass or a fail, and update your rules and your metrics and the way you're going to calibrate these scores for what is a pass and what is a fail. And so that needs to be happening on an ongoing basis to ensure that you have that consistency. So it sounds like a lot of you guys, the scoring consistency is a challenge. We do calibrations. So if you're not doing that calibration, that's a really important step to make sure, because things can start to slide before you even really know it. But this is yet another place where that automation takes this out of it's not a factor anymore at all, because now you have literally the exact same technology in use, the same exact rules evaluating all of your interactions. So it's happening in a completely consistent way. It's not factoring in whether this is Trisha taking the call or Kelly taking the call, because the AI doesn't know who Trisha and Kelly are. It's always going to give the same result. So that's another benefit as you're looking at adding automation into your quality program, is you will benefit from having that objective and consistent scoring. And it also, it takes out of you guys, I'm sure, being in the business for a long time, you've seen where the one call you pick out, I'm going to take this call from Trisha. Well, this is when Trisha just got in a car accident on the way to work and she spilled her coffee all over herself, and now she's just in a terrible mood, and then she got this really angry customer, and it was just the worst call that could have happened, and that's the one you chose to evaluate, which is really not a fair assessment of Trisha's performance. She does great all the time, and then she just had this one bad call. So looking at all of your calls also adds more consistency and less bias, because you're really getting that accurate sample of everything Trisha does, not just that one call.
And I think agents tend to, when a supervisor comes to them, if they're manual, saying, hey, you've had some of these calls that need improvement, and you're talking about how many times does the agent say, oh, well, it was just that one call, that one day.
Right.
That tends to be the go-to rebuttal when there's inquiries into the calls. So the automation part takes that away, as Kelly was saying. So I think we've all experienced that some. So one of the comments in the chat I wanted to pull out, Darlene had said, we saw the lack of calibration affect us when we had our quality coaches rotate teams and people who had been doing well under one coach suddenly wasn't doing well under another coach and vice versa. So I think that is, you know, on the manual side, that is an excellent way to kind of test to see what's going on. Really, again, it gets into calibrations, right, of seeing how different reviewers or evaluators are scoring each call. So maybe having the same set of calls reviewed by, you know, 5 separate people to see how they are working, how level it is, how level the playing field is across the board, if you will.
Great.
Sorry, I'm scrolling through the chat to see if there was lots of great feedback in here. And a lot of you, it looks like you are doing some calibration now, which is fantastic. I'd love to hear about how you're tackling calibration in your business, although I know it's hard to do in a quick line in chat, but I'd love to hear some of that. Awesome. Anything else before we move on that, Kelly?
No, I think we're ready for the next topic.
All right. Does your quality program provide scorecard access and transparency for agents? So, you know, I think this one is very important. Agents need to know how they're doing against their predefined goals and KPIs. So let me take a step back. They need to know what those goals and KPIs are that they're being scored against, right? And sounds so basic, but I have come across 1 or 2 instances where I have agents saying, well, we didn't know. And the fact is they probably did, but making sure that they have constant access to it is one way to combat that. So providing access to dashboards and scorecards, it really helps employees to take ownership of their success, right? It lets each agent know how they're doing at any given time. It enables them to really self-manage and to modify their performance as they go. And that transparency really ensures that everyone involved in the process knows what they're trying to achieve. It gives them a great opportunity to hit their targets, and every employee knows exactly how well they're doing and how the team is doing, if they're being scored as a team as well, how they're doing at all times. So again, we're going to ask you in the chat, you know, can your agent see how they're doing at any given time? Is there that transparency there? And if not, how frequently are they updated on how they're doing? So would be interested to get some of your feedback there. And give me 1 second. I'm going to give it a minute as some of the responses come in. And I apologize, I accidentally had clicked off the chat, so I was trying to get it back up so I could see it. So as those are coming in, I'm going to kind of continue as we go here, and then I'll try to check back in there. But Kelly, feel free to.
Yeah, it looks like most people do have at least access to their own, but some of them don't have access to the rest of the team. And it looks like some of it is all the time, some of it is monthly.
Nice. So one of the things, you know, if an agent doesn't have that visibility into their performance kind of real time, it's very hard for them to self-correct. They don't know where they need to improve upon. It could really, on the compliance side, they could definitely be missing more on the compliance side. And, you know, if they can self-monitor, think about this. It really opens the door to the conversations on improvement and in coaching, so that they're empowered more, I'd say, to reach out to the supervisors, the managers, to say, hey, looks like I'm struggling here. Can you help me? What am I doing that I'm not hitting this metric? Maybe they really, truly don't understand kind of what the issue is. So this empowers them to see that and to take, as I said, more ownership of it and to ask those questions without having, you know, the supervisor or manager really initiate those conversations. So it makes it, you know, they feel like they're not being reprimanded as much, and it's more of that true coaching experience as you go. So, kind of as we've been talking about, what are some things you can do today? So if you're not automated, if you're not adding new technology, what can you do with some of the current tools that you have today? And again, it gets back to really some of the basics, but I think a lot of times we're all moving so quickly that we might miss some steps on that basic list. So making sure, supervisors review the goals and KPIs that each agent is being measured and scored upon. So making sure that your agents know where they can go at any time, even if it's not scores, real-time dashboards and things right available to them, that they know where they can go to get those scores. They know where they can go to for coaching and advice as they find issues along the way. And with, manual quality monitoring, really, I would recommend starting with a very limited number of KPIs to really focus on what's most important to you and your organization and to your customers. And then you can continue to build upon that. It's very hard to start with a whole long list of KPIs that here's all the things that we have to do to be successful. And especially with the manual side of things, it makes it very, very hard to manage, monitor, and to be successful. So if you narrow down what really is making an impact to your business and start with a limited list, let's nail those and then continue to add on as you go. Let me check the chat here. Is there anything else in the chat, Kelly?
There was one thing that I saw that was just kind of interesting to me when you were talking about transparency and improving. One, I don't remember the name, they were saying their agents are required to send in one call, I think it was per month or something, where they did not think they did well. So that, and it wouldn't be scored against them, it was like an opportunity for a coaching session of how could I have handled this call better. And I think that's a good example of something that you can just add into your process without, again, you don't have to go buy some new technology or make any real big kind of change. It's just a way that you can start to get more of that conversation going with your agents.
Right. And I'm seeing some frustration as some agents don't review their evaluations, and yeah, that's a whole nother issue, and I think might fall partially into employee engagement side of things if they feel like they don't have control over things. But that's very true, Sue. Samantha, hi, thanks for joining us. She said, we do the same thing with our third-party call centers, and I think that's a good point to call out. Once a year, we do multiple roundtables and focus one of those on quality and retrain and reiteration with the updates. My auditing team also leaves notes on each review, and if a follow-up or coaching needs to happen, it's sent right to the advocate or the supervisor at the same time and together. That's excellent. Awesome. Lots of great feedback. Great job. So it's difficult to provide one-on-one coaching. Their scores due to extremely high call volumes. Exactly. And that's where the automation portion comes in. And y'all are probably tired of hearing Kelly say that. But that's the fact, right, of today. Everybody is doing multiple jobs. A lot of times the call center supervisors struggle to get back to what the real goal of the job is. And it's not to spend all the time and effort identifying which calls to review and monitor and to, if you figure out how many calls you're doing each time and you're trying to coach based on those and it's going back and forth, it's tough. It's tough without automation. And so it's extremely hard. And I've seen over the last few years, especially, staffing is down a little bit. And so automation comes into play so much more. And I think it's more important than ever. Barrett, we talk about the engagement capacity gap, but that it's a very real thing. Those customer expectations are higher. And when calls are getting to the call center, they are more complex. And so, agents have a really tough job. Supervisors have a really tough job. This is not easy. And without, automation in your corner, it can definitely amplify that.
Yeah, that automation, once you have it where you're evaluating all of your interactions, those agents I've seen, it can start to really, they almost make it a game for themselves because they can watch their KPIs shift, from day to day even. Okay, I'm going to really try to work on this KPI this week, and they can watch that needle tick up and really see that it's working. So it has a real motivating factor.
And I think if, some of the call centers, if you have gamification in place or some, they're feeling those challenges, they enjoy the challenges across their team, with their neighbor or their virtual neighbor in terms of the call center and can really see kind of where they go, and then they're struggling saying, oh, I want to beat this person. I want to get a higher score. That stuff definitely comes into play as well and makes it fun and engaging for the team as well. All right.
There was one other question in here. I think this is a question that you guys can all answer. So they're debating internally who should do these call evaluations. Should it be supervisors? Should it be a QA analyst, a senior representative, somebody else? So for you guys, do you guys have a separate QA analyst team? Is it your supervisors who are doing it? I'm sure it kind of depends a bit on the size of your company, if you have a dedicated quality team. So it looks like a lot of people have a dedicated quality team. I see some supervisors in here. So I think it kind of does depend. Ideally, I think a QA team is great because a QA team of one, just a one-man show. Depends on the resources you have available. Like you're saying, Tricia, not everybody, we're making cuts sometimes or not growing as much as we want. So you got to do what you got to do. But ideally, a dedicated QA team.
And I think making sure that you're looping in, and I think this goes without saying, the supervisors and managers, right, who are seeing it day in and day out. So maybe it takes away some of that bias if a separate quality team is doing it, but making sure that they're part of the process along the way in establishing kind of what the guidelines are, what the thresholds are. I think it can really help everyone buy into the program, if you will.
Somebody was saying they used to have supervisors doing it, but the supervisors gave much higher scores than the QA team did.
That is a resounding reason to have a separate team. I thought that's a great comment. All right, for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and move on.
Okay, I love this topic. So I'm going to start again with a question. Who here is doing some kind of post-call, post-interaction survey? Yes. So far, we got a lot of yeses. So this is great. So we got one no, but we have a couple no's. So the vast majority of you guys already have a post-call survey. So for you guys, this is great because I'm going to talk about something that you can really start to do today without having to add anything else. Something that can happen, which I find fascinating, is you can have two different situations. The first is somebody got every single thing right on their quality evaluation. They did all the things. And then the post-call survey comes and they get a terrible score from the customer. And the reverse can happen also. Somebody did not do great on their quality score that you did. All the tick boxes that you did, they're not so good, but the customer loved them. The customer said, this was a great interaction. So these are situations where you really need to take a look at what is going on. You should be so happy when you find these because these are opportunities because something unusual has happened and you want to find out why. So this is why it's really important if you are doing some kind of post-interaction opportunity to get customer feedback that you pull that in and link that together with your quality evaluation. Those should be two sides of the same coin. So if you already have your surveys, you can probably pull this together with some sort of manual process. Again, there's also technology that you can use to do this and make this automatically part of that full total quality picture. But the reasons that these can happen, first let's take the example of the person who did not score well on your quality evaluation, but the customer loved them. Now, that could be a bad reason. The customer may have said something that's not true and made the customer happy by appeasing them with things that were not true. Like, oh yeah, where your package is coming tomorrow, when the package is lost and we have no idea where it is. So it could be bad, but it could be that your agent has sort of made their own process, if you will, that's actually better. So we had an example of with our technology that you could group calls of where there was a successful sale and there was not a successful sale. And we could look at those two sets of calls separately and start to see, okay, what do these successful sale calls have in common versus the not so successful ones? And what they found was that the successful sales, that's a tough thing to say, I'm going to stop saying that phrase, they actually were not using the script. They had some of their own phrases that they had found were more effective. And so what that organization was able to do is then pull those phrases in and put them in your sales script so that everybody could have that information and improve the sales rate overall. So sometimes it's that they found something. You know, your quality rules may be outdated of what you're looking for and what you're asking your agents to do. And in the kind of the same perspective, that can happen when your quality score is perfect, but the customer's not happy. And so that could mean that what you're asking your agent to do is the wrong thing. It's making customers frustrated. Your process that you're telling them to follow has too many steps, or it's confusing. You're asking the same information over and over again, something like that. So this is, again, a great opportunity to look and say, why did this happen? Where do we need to look at, maybe we need to change what we're looking for, because the end goal is not good quality scores on your quality evaluation. The end goal is happy customers. And you know, we want customers to be buying more things. We want customers to stay with us. Getting a great quality score and having angry customers is not what you're looking to do. The quality score should be pushing you towards happy customers. But you're only going to know that if you're marrying those two pieces of data together. So I feel like this is something that a lot of organizations have both pieces of this puzzle. You know, they're doing surveys and they're doing quality evaluations, but they're not necessarily looking at them at the same time and finding those mismatches to see where action needs to be taken. Anything you want to add on that, Tricia?
Well, not exactly on that, but I've got to call out a comment that was made at the start of when you were talking about an agent might be giving incorrect information out, but the customer is extremely happy. Stacy said, I call it confidently wrong. And I like that. Confidently wrong. But yeah, lots of great feedback talking about how someone had mentioned about they do warm transfers to the survey from the agent to the survey, which is great, except for if the agent feels like the call hasn't been positive, it's more cherry picked and they don't send them to the survey afterwards. So there's a lot of comments similar to that, in that it just varies. Reading a couple others here as we go. Ours are separate also, yeah. So I found a lot of times, as Kelly was saying, they are separate. You know, you might be doing surveys, which is a great first step, right? But then connecting those dots to really find the correlation between how the call went overall. So you're not just looking at the internal factor of how the agent did and did the agent check all the boxes, right? You're also looking at, but what was the impact to the customer overall, and seeing where that alignment is, or seeing corrections that need to be made on the agent side. So no, I didn't have anything else there, Kelly. That was great. Lots of great conversations in the chat as well. So I can't get to all of them, but we are reading them as we go. Let's go ahead to another one here. Does your quality program free supervisors time for higher value tasks? So from what we've been hearing back from you in the chat, it sounds like this might be a resounding no. And I think a lot of times it's not a matter of yeah, we definitely do high value tasks, but I think it's the freeing supervisors' time portion that isn't happening, especially with smaller teams, right? So, one question that, I always I'd like to throw out there is, what could you be doing in your business if you weren't spending so much time on these manual evaluations? So let us know in the chat. If you weren't spending the time to run the reports and identify which calls you're going to evaluate, identifying the root causes of certain issues that you find, what would you be doing with your time? Could you be doing more coaching? Would you be focusing on some of those process issues that maybe were identified?
So it looks like we have coaching and more calibration, training, all of these things. So, I know we've been talking a lot about automation, but the thing is, the ROI of this automation, it comes in so many forms. Yes, you get increased compliance. Yes, you get better quality of your actual interactions, but you also get the benefit of time. I've talked to some customers where they moved from manual quality evaluation to the automated, and they were able to basically take that entire team of quality individuals, and they moved and they created an entirely new training and learning team that was able to then just be created with funds that were already, they just repurposed the people's jobs, and created this high value team within the organization. So there really are so many benefits to doing it. And I don't know, I feel like everybody should be doing automated quality. But the benefits are tremendous, and I don't forget about that the resources that'll open up when you're no longer spending all of this time. So I think that's a really important thing to consider. I know we're starting to get to the top of the hour as well, so I'm just going to search through the chat to see if there's any. We got more from Samantha. Hi, Samantha. Supervisors are relying on the quality team. So yeah, even if it's not your supervisors who are doing the evaluation, it's the QA team. That QA team, still, you can free them up, because those are probably people who know your products really well, who know your systems and your processes. You can free those people up, and you can put them to work doing other things to help your organization. So helping sales team do audits. Yeah, there's so many. I'm just scrolling through the chat to see them. So that's I think the last slide. We've got just some closing. That's what we wanted to wrap up with, is just to encourage you guys to do a review of where you're currently at with your quality program. Get your baseline and understand maybe what some quick wins are that you can do with your current tools. That we gave you a lot of examples today that don't require you to go out and buy new software and do all of that. There's improvements you can make, best practices, changes to your processes, little tweaks you can add to make improvements now. But also take a look at when you think is the right time to add automation. And it really, I think, is, for most organizations, a when, not an if. Because your ROI on it is just going to be so huge that it's going to financially just make sense to start to move to that automation, and free up the people and remove the bias and all the things we talked about today. Tricia, can you hear me? Oh, you're on mute.
I am. Sorry about that. I don't know.
No worries. I was just wrapping up on our key takeaways slide, but is there any wrap up that you want to give on what we've talked about today?
No, and I apologize. I didn't hear your full wrap up, so if I'm repeating anything, please just stop me as I go. I apologize that my connection dropped. So, I wanted to, I know Kelly probably has gone over the key takeaways here, but I go back to what we were saying at the beginning. Quality is not an accident. It's always the result of intelligent effort, and it's not easy, but the job of a quality analyst or a supervisor, or contact center agent, whoever's doing it in your business, it's incredibly important to the business. So it's incredibly important to providing that exceptional customer experience, and to just really encourage you to keep making strides to achieving that greater quality, that greater total quality maybe. And every step you make makes a difference. So there's even some of the small things that we talked about today can really have a positive impact to your business. So I would just encourage you to keep on keeping on, and trying to move in the right direction. It's a tough job.
It certainly is. Well, thank you guys for joining us. If anyone has any final chats that you want to send to us, we will be reading through all of them. We really, really appreciate all your participation today. That was fantastic. There was a lot of good conversation in here. Thanks, Tricia, my counterpart, for putting in all the hard work.
And thanks to Sherry and Vicki for having us.
What we're going to do, because a couple of people asked, because the chat you write was amazing, we're going to make a transcript of it, and we're going to put it in your booth.
Awesome,
Great.
thank you.
So look, not before probably 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, 2 o'clock Eastern, we're going to have a transcript and put it in the Verint booth. So you'll have that there.
Perfect. Thank you for doing that, Sherry. That's excellent.
Yeah, because you
guys have been rock stars in the chat. Oh my goodness! I mean, I know what Tricia was saying. It's just hard. It's hard to watch because there was just so much great information in there. So that's great, Sherry, that we can put it in the booth for Verint.
Yeah, we'll put that in the booth. And I want to remind everybody, continuing with this theme, we have a 2 o'clock session on transforming call center quality assurance. So if you have not yet, oh, see, look at that. Love my relationship with Verint. But if you have not yet signed up,
Love you too, Samantha.
I'm going to go to that session at 2.
And then tomorrow I get to do a session, which I'm very excited about QATC survey results, and we also have two more sessions tomorrow, including that one. So we've got 3 more sessions. And again, everything is recorded and should be available 24 hours after each session is finished. Sherry, any other final remarks?
I think we're good till we'll see everybody in an hour.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.